In 1970, President Richard Nixon signed the Controlled Substance Act called CSA, essentially declaring a war on drugs, and that included marijuana. Americans' attitude in U.S. law has come a long way since then. Last year, the U.S. House of Representatives passed legislation to remove cannabis, better known as marijuana, from the CSA. And currently, legislation is being considered to decriminalize marijuana and establish a tax on sales similar to alcohol. No, shine. 18 states have presently, that's high, 18 states have presently legalized the recreational use of marijuana, and 36 approve it for medical use. You won't believe this, my friends. I'm in the wrong business. The legal cannabis market is expected to reach over $40 billion in the United States by 2026. So, with popular opinion in American law increasingly embracing marijuana use, the question we discussed today is, what does Judaism say about this? What does Judaism say about this? Let me see now. In Jewish law, there is a general requirement to observe the civil laws of the land in which one lives when there is not a contradiction with Jewish law. Therefore, in addition to whatever Judaism says about marijuana, Jewish law demands an obedience to the authority of civil law. If it's illegal to possess or use, use of marijuana, it's also against Jewish law. Does that mean, if now it becomes legal, is it also permissible according to Jewish law and Jewish values? Oy Gewalt, I've just lost everybody. It's important to distinguish between recreational marijuana use and medical use. The Talmud understands from the Hebrew phrase v'rapo yirape, which translates he shall provide for his healing, that man has a license to treat even though the process of healing could itself violate other values such as not causing someone to bleed. But what about treating pain, even when there is no healing benefit? Is one permitted to violate other values or prohibitions simply to relieve pain? Well, I want to share with you from a great, great sage, Rabbi Avram Borenstein, proves that the treatment exemption doesn't only apply to healing, but also to pain management, even if there is no therapeutic benefit. Based on this ruling, the famous Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and others conclude that the use of narcotics, such as morphine, are permissible, even for a terminally ill patient if necessary to relieve pain. Though morphine impacts breathing and can hasten death, it is permissible for a terminally ill patient nonetheless because the diminishing pain is a form of healing. So extending this rule, a contemporary authority in Jewish law, Rabbi Yitzhak Zilberstein, writes that despite a general negative approach to marijuana use, it may be used for medical and pain management purposes, no different than narcotics or pain medications. So, let's move on to the recreational part of this question. The Torah obligates us to live healthy lives and to generally protect our well-being. The Talmud derives from the verse, "V'nishmartem ma'od es nafshosechem," be very careful to safeguard one's soul. That is a mandate to be responsible with our lives. So the question is marijuana use a violation of the responsibility to live a healthy life? The Talmud tells us that Rav, who lived in the 2nd century, told his son Chia, do not ingest any drugs. Rashi explains that this great Rabbi Rav was concerned that a person would enjoy the high and would crave experiencing it over and over. So why is that a problem? How is it being high and happy a violation of living healthy? And the answer is, when we indulge in substances that cloud our judgment or that compromise our consciousness, when we lose control and become undisciplined, we are weakening our godly soul. Humans are composed of two souls, our animal soul and our godly soul. The animal soul urges us to act impulsively and to indulge our drives indiscriminately. We describe someone who is out of control as acting like an animal, who may be at that point worse than an animal. And someone who stuffs their faces, what do we say? Ah, you're eating like a chaza, like a pig. We are also endowed with a godly soul and are each created in God's image. The godly soul is capable of discipline and self-control. It enables us to consciously make choices and empowers us to regulate our behavior. So when we indulge in substances that cloud our judgment or that compromise our consciousness, when we lose control and become undisciplined, guess what? We're weakening. We are concealing our godly soul, essentially surrendering our very humanity. We are meant to live in the here and now, to be fully engaged and immersed in the present and aware of our surroundings, engaged with our environment, responsible for our behavior, and able to remember what we did and what occurs around us. So using up substances, be they drugs or alcohol, to escape our reality, to numb ourselves to pain, to feel heightened pleasure, or just for fun, is basically to submit to our base self, to choose the animal impulse over our godly soul. While getting drunk or high can lead to fleeting and temporary happiness, my friends, it is counterfeit and short-lived. Holiness demands consciousness, mindfulness, self-control. That's why the Torah forbids drinking wine in the temple, the holiest building in the holiest place on earth. While getting drunk or high can lead to a fleeting and temporary happiness, it is a counterfeit and very much short-lived. The Rambam Maimonides writes, whoever becomes drunk is considered a sinner, is shameful, and will lose his wisdom. If he becomes drunk before others, he is desecrating God's name. Some argue that being high or drunk actually enables religious growth and spiritual breakthrough by removing inhibitions and reliving stress. I'm here to tell you that's a mistake. Authentic, genuine, and lasting spiritual growth results from engaging our heart, our brain, and soul in a very conscious state, not by escaping from it. It's important to note that while research comparing dangers and side effects of alcohol and marijuana remains mixed, there is a fundamental difference between them. At Jewish events, on holidays, and during life cycle events, wine is used in moderation to elevate and dignify the occasion. So while Judaism frowns upon getting drunk, it simultaneously incorporates lifting a glass of wine to honor a special occasion. Wine can be enjoyed in moderation and consumed without intoxicating, while marijuana is a tool to get high, with some research arguing that it is a gateway drug. Jewish law believes that although medical marijuana is permissible, its recreational use prevents us from being ourselves and is forbidden. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, one of the greatest American rabbis of the 20th century, rules that marijuana use is addictive, harmful, and forbidden. According to the National Institute of Health, 30% of those who use marijuana have some degree of marijuana use disorder. Additionally, research shows that marijuana use kills brain cells and can be harmful to a person's health and well-being. Marijuana use is associated with deficits in decision-making. A person who is high not only cannot observe mitzvahs properly, he or she is much more likely to engage in behavior and choices that are antithetical to Jewish law and in conflict with Jewish values. The same Rabbi Feinstein concludes by reminding us that in Judaism we live for holiness, not happiness, and says that we must make our greatest effort to combat this impure and unholy activity from amongst us. There's a contemporary rabbi in Israel, Rabbi Shlomo Aviner, who also addresses this question and comes to the same strict conclusion. And he says that people who use marijuana become dependent on it, and that dependence compromises the capacity to live our best selves. He adds that it tends to make people unmotivated, impacts memory, inflates confidence in dangerously unhealthy ways. All assertions that are supported by research and inconsistent with a rich, ambitious Jewish life. So what's my conclusion, dear friends? While the world around is adopting more permissive laws and views of marijuana use, in Jewish law believes that although medical marijuana is permissible, its recreational use prevents us from being our best selves and is forbidden. We should satisfy the craving to get high by coming to the synagogue on the high holidays. That's why it's called high holidays, especially after listening to the rabbi's speech. That's why it's called high. You come to appreciate the silence that you have at home after listening to the rabbi's speech. But seriously, we should satisfy the craving of getting high by working hard to develop our spiritual muscles and deepen our connection to the infinite source of creation. So let's look at this question a little more about happiness as well. How do we get our happiness? Let me just see. I want to see what the wonderful comments coming up from everybody. And let me just see if I can... No, I don't see the comments today. But don't worry, everybody. I'll be able to read it. This idea of being happy. How does a person supposed to get happy? Do we really need marijuana? Come on. The National Geographic's recent article, High Science, about the new science of marijuana features no less an Israeli scientist, Dr. Raphael Mechulan, who was the first to identify that marijuana has psychedelic properties. And there are many, you can learn a lot about the culture by its language. For example, in the Eskimo dialect, there are numerous words for different types of snow. They are surrounded by snow, these Eskimos, and understand all the different subtle nuances between the different types of precipitation. In classical Hebrew, it has a dozen different words for happiness. The Talmud sources list 10 different Hebrew words for joy. There's sasin, v'simcha, gila, ritza, titza, v'chedra. There's ecstatic joy, there's songful joy, there's surprising joy. In fact, there are so many different words for joy that it can be said that Judaism is centered around joy, as the Eskimos' lives are centered on snow. Whether it's celebrating life events from births to circumcisions to bar mitzvahs to weddings to Sabbath to holiday. Come on. There's so much around us. We don't need to turn to marijuana to get happy. There's so much around us that helps us attain happiness in our life, because it's a priority in our life. The Talmud tells us that the divine presence rests on a person who's happy. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Serve God with gladness. Boyu lefanav b'ernana. Come before Him with joyful song. So, do we need marijuana for joy? Does getting high lead us to happiness? You know what? Every high actually goes away and is followed by a low. The low is really just a return to our normal state of consciousness. But in contrast to the high, everyday life suddenly feels like a low. This conundrum can propel the infrequent recreational use of marijuana to want to get high more often to avoid the lows, and basically creating a vicious cycle that can lead to the need for more drugs to reach the same high, obviously laying the seeds for addictive behaviors in many, many fashions. So according to Judaism, marijuana might smell like joy, but there's nothing genuinely joyful about it. The most commonly used word for joy in Hebrew is simcha. Simcha shares the same linguistic root as the word tzemach, which means growth. In Judaism, joy and growth are intertwined. Joy, to get high, so to speak, to have joy, takes work. It's the feeling that you get when you work hard at something and succeed. It is the pleasure of having reached the top of a tough experience. You can look back at a long journey and bask in the pleasure of your accomplishment. That is true joy. We often think that pleasure and pain are opposites, and therefore seek all kinds of ways to achieve pleasure without pain. In reality, pain is the gateway to pleasure. No pain, no gain, as we say. The more effort we exert, the more we can enjoy the fruit of our labor. When we look for all sorts of shortcuts to find pleasure without effort or pain, snorkeling a little bit of azoi marijuana, guess what? We end up with empty highs that lack the true depth and meaning. They may look like joy. They may even smell like joy. But they fade away as quickly as they come, and we end up worse than when we started. So I want to share with you today some of the ways of happiness in life. Not some artificially inspired joy where there could be alcohol or some other externally stimulated joy, like a great party. Those might make us feel good, but at the end of it, we're not experiencing a genuine internal happiness. I may simply be numbing my unhappiness self with these external forces. So how can I achieve a happy frame of mind without using marijuana or without using alcohol, whatever else? I'll tell you how. When I feel that my life has a purpose and that the things I do are genuinely in the service of that purpose, guess what? Then I'm on the road to happiness. I may still be working hard and dealing with difficult situations, but guess what? I'm living for a worthy goal. I feel internally balanced and happy. But this purpose needs to be, this sense of purpose. Have this in mind. Something I truly value makes you happy. Something which is genuinely a deep-seated purpose of mine, not just some side beneficiary of my life efforts. A third thing would be something substantial and enduring. For all these reasons, I don't believe I can be happy building sandcastles. I need a more genuine anchor. Raising a psychologically and spiritually healthy family is one good example. If I set my mind as my goal, as my family as my goal, and build my world around their healthy growth, that can bring us inner peace. If I go to work to provide for them, and they're not just the beneficiaries of my career, I can maintain inner peace in the face of challenge. I can endure significant stress because I'm doing it for a higher purpose for them. In Judaism, holiness is the purpose which can bring balance in all of our lives. So if I believe that I and my actions truly matter to God, if I believe that my every action can change me and my world for good, that every action is cosmic and enduring in a true sense, then I can have a genuine inner peace and happiness. The stresses are there, but I believe that embracing these stresses and accepting them wholeheartedly is itself a part of my soul's growth and maturation. Each moment can become an internally shining nugget of meaning. So how can we not be happy? Just to add this idea, some more ideas of increasing our joy without having to come to drink or to marijuana. Live, dance, and celebrate as if you have everything you need and want. Joy is not only the result of being in a good situation. When we feel we lack something, a sure way not to get the things we want is to focus on the lack and to complain or blame others. We may find it difficult to feel joyful, but by making the effort to live as if our prayers have been answered, we can help ensure that our prayers will be answered. Think good, as we say, and it will be good. Trach good, wird sein good. And now a second idea of how to be happy in life is know your mission. Value yourself. Value your talents, the strengths and the skills, just as God does. The Baal Shem Tov taught, you should realize that everything depends on you. And with every one of your good deeds, every one of your mitzvahs, the universe resonates in blissful harmony that heals and nurtures. Wow, just imagine your power. Another idea of how we can be happy, remember God follows us like a shadow. God is your shadow at your right hand. The Baal Shem Tov explains that just as our shadows, right, what's the famous radio show, The Shadow Knows, right? The Baal Shem Tov explained that just as our shadows follow all over the movements of our bodies, so too God responds to us and echoes our emotional state. This means that the way we present ourselves to God elicits similar responses from Him. When God sees that we're living joyfully, Guess what? Wow! He responds with goodness and blessing. Another way to stay happy all day without having to go to marijuana is start your day positively and gratefully. Say the Moida Ani. We wake up in the morning, the first thing we do, dear friends, what do? We check the email. Sorry. We say Moida Ani. Even before we get out of bed. This will start our day by taking the focus off oneself and right into our gratitude, for waking up and returning our soul to you, and creating this beautiful world. Ask God to feel that the joy throughout the day. As you wash and we dress for the day, remind ourselves that God wants us to be joyful. Before you even see anyone else, remind yourself to remain cheerful. These are ways to stay happy without marijuana, without saying too many l'chaims. Another important way is to speak cheerfully. Practice speaking respectfully and cheerfully to others, and watch your whole day change for the better. People will reflect back your courtesy and good cheer. Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Fathers, tells us to greet everybody with a pleasant face. We should especially exercise our pleasant faces in our own home. Another way that I've learned from life of being happy without having to turn to anything else out external, increase your sense of awareness and appreciation. Feel grateful for what you hear, feel, see, smell, and feel. Do you love do you hear the relaxing sounds of the rain falling, or the comforting sounds of the trees' leaves rustling in the wind's blows? Can you see God's breathtaking, colorful sunrise or sunset? Do you look forward to your first warm-up of a coffee or tea or coffee? Nurture those moments and feel grateful for life's small treasures. Note, it's a great thing just simply to be alive is one way of feeling good without having to have any external stuff. Another important thing which I stress so much to my wonderful congregation at Chabad in Mineola, enjoy community. We should celebrate our friends and our families' birthdays. Get together with friends on Shabbos for learning, for coffee. Value the spiritual benefits of gathering together. There's nothing greater than spending a few hours in the synagogue on a Saturday morning, not on those tough, high holiday seasons when it's everybody's, there's lots of people and there's, it's such a serious davening. Just take a regular Saturday. We start at 10 a.m. Spend 2 hours with us. We joy, we laugh, we have humor, we daven. There's serious moments, there's high moments. There's the simple, you walk away feeling happy. You have a community. There's people who care for you. They hear about your lives. When a group of us come together, it creates a joyful atmosphere, both for the people in the group and also for God. Make sure we create joy on the Shabbos day, the Friday nights, the holidays, the homecomings, the birthdays, the anniversary. Collect special decorations. I don't know. I could go on and on and on and on over here. Make favorite foods. Bake a cake. I don't know. Play your favorites, music. Buy flowers to grace the table. Do whatever it takes to create an environment of joy, peace, and contentment. Another important thing that I say is dress the part. Most people feel better about themselves and about their day when they're wearing clothing, styles, and fabrics that make them feel good, that aren't so whatever. Make work or boring errands more fun by dressing up and taking a role as a daughter or a son, a creation of God, seriously. Take care of yourself by properly eating and sleeping and exercise. I mean, I could go on and on and on. My point here is we don't need the externity. So even if, out there, the world, there are different communities on Long Island where they are going to allow marijuana, not allowing, because it's becoming more and more accessible, it doesn't make it right. We should adjust our attitudes. When faced with an unexpected inconvenience, let's train ourselves to see the hidden benefits. There's so much I could share with you. And most importantly is keep Jewish homes handy, a Jewish book at your home handy, whether you have it on your phone or your Kindle or books. Make it a habit to read inspiring Jewish books about faith, about Jewish history, biographies of inspiring people, or uplifting quotes or words of Torah. Pull out your book in a waiting room, on a carpool, whatever it may be. All these things help to bring us to a sense of happiness. So, my friends, you got my gist for this morning, and I do appreciate everybody who is joining us on Facebook and also listening at WHBC. Dear friends, breathe, stay cool, remain observational, about the world around us. If someone is behaving rudely or aggressively, keep those ideas far away. Find the inner happiness, and then, of course, we don't need anything external to bring us that place. Eschew those whiners. Minimize contact with whiners. We should spend more time with positive, upbeat people. And life, of course, we should train ourselves to look for the positive metaphors in this world.